This is the Terry Levine Show, business advice you can take to the bank.
Hi, it's Terry Levine, the business mentoring expert, and welcome to the Terry Levine Show, business advice you can take to the bank. So today, let's chat a little bit about why everyone is so afraid of picking up the phone. I'm not even talking about cold calling. I'm talking about warm calling. I'm talking about returning phone calls. I'm talking about making phone calls to people that have expressed an interest in your product or services, people you know, former clients, friends, colleagues, those of you who are just getting started in business, making phone calls to let people know that you're starting a business. Why is it that people aren't using the telephone? First of all, the telephone is a great vehicle. It's the number one vehicle that literally costs little to no money, so it's a great guerrilla marketing tactic. Number two, it's a great way to actually reach people. It's a communication tool, and it's the way most businesses got started. So I use the phone all the time. In fact, it's my biggest tool. If you're on my newsletter list, you may often see emails that come out from me that just have two words, call me. And you may think that's an odd email. And I put in a person's name typically, so they have three words. Diane, call me. Mary, call me. Susie, call me. And my phone rings. I usually schedule 3 days with nothing on my calendar just to handle phone calls. And people on my list call me and go, I'm not sure why you wanted me to call you, but here I am. And I just call. I just listen to their calls and I say, hey, just wanted to see what was going on. You know, do you have any concerns, questions in business? Are you a startup? Where are you at? And I just listen. I do nothing more than listen. And at the very end of the phone call, I say, just want to see if there's anything I could do to serve or support you. Every single time I've sent that email out, every single time, and I've used that same email for close to 18 years, I've picked up anywhere from $10,000 to about $80,000 worth of business. I love using the telephone. It also allows me to be in conversation mode and not just be sitting here on social media clicking. It allows me to have real conversations and to start real relationships. I think that people have fear. They're not sure what to say on the phone or what to do. And I literally just go into listen mode. I just say, hey, I just wanted to see what's going on in your business, or if you do something else, what's going on in your life, or what's going on with your health, or if you are a nanny coach, what's going on with your kids or your parent, if you're helping seniors, what's going on with your parents, whatever it might be. I had a PR firm call me the other day and say, just wanted to see if you have any publicity needs, whatever it is. So I'm really encouraging you and begging you and asking you to really try and work through your phone concerns. And the best way to do it is literally to just get people to call you. I find that if you're really scared of the phone, just get your phone to ring so you're picking up the phone. So my call me email is one. I've probably given this, it's no longer a secret. I probably shared this with about 40 or 50 internet marketer friends of mine that I know and clients. So that includes my clients and internet marketer friends. And I see them use it all the time because I'm on their mailing lists. And so I'll get it, hey Terry, call me. And I'm like, oh, I know exactly where that came from. And I'll just check in with them, 3-4 days later and say, how'd that work for you? And they'll be like, that really worked. It was really cool. And I'm like, awesome. That's what it's about. I believe share it. Why not share it if it works? So go ahead. I'm sharing it with you. I sent out a postcard, by the way, about 2 years ago, and it did the same thing. It just had people's names on it. Hey, Sharon, call me. Hey, Bill, call me. And that was really effective. And you just have to schedule the time in your calendar because people will call you. I've never done it to a cold list. I've always done it to, a list that's following me or a warm list. I have done it with Facebook friends. I have done it with First Connection LinkedIn. So I just want you to start thinking about some creative ways that you can get your phone to ring. By the way, I call this reverse marketing or sometimes they call it automated marketing. Because instead of you having to get over your fear of using the phone starts ringing for you. All right, let's bring the guest into the Terry Levine Show. The show is brought to you by our friends at happyentrepreneur.com. As a best-selling author, I've contributed to a lot of magazines, and I've been most proud to be one of the contributors to the Happy Entrepreneur magazine. This is really a high-content magazine, and I find that it's perfect for the solopreneur. You'll get the information that you need to know to succeed in business and to really enjoy building your business at the same time. So go to www.happyentrepreneur.com, subscribe, and you can also tell them that Terry Levine sent you. And now I'm happy to introduce my guest. Jason Kanigan is a Salesforce developer. He's on a mission to transform 100,000 people from being perceived by the public as slimy tricksters who will say anything to get an order into trusted advisors who are well rewarded for their expertise. So if you're struggling with selling, but are excellent at delivering a product or service, you need to talk to Jason, and that's why I invited him here to talk to us today. So Jason, I want to welcome you to today's show.
Thanks, Terry. I appreciate the chance to be here, and I look forward to sharing some of my points of view with your listeners.
Well, I'm really excited to have you because I think you and I share a lot of common interest. Years ago, I wrote a book called Sell Without Selling because I really feel the same way about sales. And I thought we might start off by having a conversation about the general topic of what's wrong with selling today.
Sure. I think the big issue with selling is that people have grown up with that sort of Herb Tarlac from WKRP Cincinnati idea of what a salesperson is supposed to be like. Pushy, aggressive, trying to bowl you over, slinging a lot of features and benefits at you and trying to really overbear you over some sort of passion fence until you fall over and say, okay, I'll buy, uncle, I give up. And that leads to a lot of wear and tear on both you as the salesperson and your prospect that you're talking to. And there is a better way. Unfortunately, most people have never heard of a different way of ethical, honest, and effective selling.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, when I was, quote, growing up in having to learn sales and marketing, I was taught, the Benjamin Franklin close.
Right.
I hate to admit all these things, but I was able to sell. But I've shared with the listeners, I think on some prior shows, I used to throw up after I sold because I felt like I tricked people and manipulated them, and it didn't feel good. Really didn't feel good. So I find that, I'll ask you the same question, but I find that a lot of people really struggle with sales and they fear sales. Do you find the same thing?
I think that's a huge issue, is that people have that view of selling that all salespeople are slimy tricksters, and they don't want to put on that cloak or that costume because then they feel that they're going to get branded as being slimy themselves. And so to get out of that sort of mentality, I'm on that mission to elevate selling and show people that there is a different approach that you can take.
Okay, so can you give us some tips, like some idea of what the approach is?
Sure. I think in most cases, and bad bosses have sort of perpetuated this over time as well, people in selling have been encouraged to try and push and push and push their prospects. Get in their face, don't take no for an answer, keep pushing, keep trying. And they really have not stopped to ask themselves, wait a minute, is the product or service I'm offering even a good fit for this prospect? Am I solving a problem that they have? Or am I just trying to make them buy what I've got? So in order to be an exceptional salesperson and an ethical salesperson, the first thing we should be doing is finding out whether your prospect has a need or a want for what you have to offer. And if they don't, wave goodbye.
I actually love that because I think that's one of the things people actually do so wrong is they think, oh, every single prospect that I talk to, I have to try to close them, versus let me hear what they really are saying and what their needs are, and if they do fit. And the biggest mistakes I've made, I don't know if you've ever made this, is accepting someone who you know in your gut, for whatever reason, isn't a fit. And then that turns
Sure.
out to be the worst disaster.
Right, yeah. Anybody who's had the client from hell will know exactly what we're talking about here. And it all comes from the beginning of the process. People are all concerned about, give me the latest closing techniques. A lot of prospects come to me with that. How do I close? Well, closing is not a problem if you've done a great job of qualifying your buyer up front. And that means filtering, sorting those who are a fit for what you have to offer, and you as a human being, from those who are not.
So one of the questions that comes up a lot is we're having a conversation, my clients and I think it was last week or the week before, they were saying, well, there's so much going on. I mean, you even look at, if you have Gmail, there's advertisements. If you go on the internet, there's advertising everywhere. You're driving, there's advertisements. How do you get your message noticed above everything that's going on out there?
Right, and all that is marketing. I guess that leads to selling, or maybe a part of selling, but that is not selling itself. Selling itself, again, is filtering well, finding out what's going on in your prospect's world, and obviously they have to be open to sharing that with you, or else there's going to be no conversation, and without dialogue, there won't be a sale. And so we really need to find out what's going on in our prospect's world.
Okay. And so what are some ways or some tips in how you might suggest somebody does that?
Well, as you were asking, the way to sort of break through all that noise is to find out what key, critical, common problems people in the niche you want to serve that you can fix are experiencing. What problems do they have that you can solve? And go in front of them, get in front of them and say, look, I solved this problem. Do you have this problem? And you can find this out just by asking your market, what kind of problems do you have? And the better you can articulate this, the more in the jargon, the specific terminology that niche uses, the easier it is to start that conversation because you'll have instant credibility. When I go to a building contractor or an electrician or something like that, and I'm able to talk in their terms, right? When I know that a builder or an electrician or a plumber is often like under somebody's house or halfway up a ladder or something like that, juggling their cell phone and a tool or something, that comes across. And I'm able to communicate with them in their language, and the people that I train are as well. So we can find out this information. What key problems that I can solve are you experiencing? And then I get out in front of those people and I keep asking them, this is the filtering part again. Are you having this problem?
It makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. That's great. I love it. We're going to take a quick word from the sponsor, Jason, and we'll be right back. I have a lot more I want to ask you.
Sure.
Marketing, sales, financials, planning, administration, speaking, branding, design, risk-taking, decision-making, social media, your life, kids, family, health, friends, relationships. You're the one who makes the final call on all of it. And it's hard to know if you're on the right track. Moving your business forward, or even just getting it off the ground, takes information that you don't always have. Many times you don't know what you don't know. Even if you're moving forward, you aren't totally confident that what you're doing is actually going to work. There's a lot of information out there, and it's almost impossible to know if it's right for you and your business. The truth is, right now, you know with every fiber of your being that you have to make this business happen, but you don't have the steps to get you there. This business is part of who you are. It's about finally stepping into what you know deep down you're truly capable of and making great money doing it. You want the steps to follow and the inspiration to know it's possible, but you're busy. It's hard to get all of this information in one place. Not to worry. Sarah Dew, business strategist and productivity expert, has you covered. Let me introduce you to the Happy Entrepreneur online magazine, a quarterly magazine for women entrepreneurs offering inspiration, strategies, and expert advice on everything a solopreneur needs to run a profitable business and a full, happy life. Here's what is inside. 10 brilliant entrepreneurs sharing their best tips and tricks in a beautiful magazine designed for you to get the facts you need along with their stories of inspiration. So you're motivated to go do this thing and take your business to the next level. And each edition has over $500 in amazing gifts from the featured experts. So come on over to www.happyentrepreneurmagazine.com and get your copy now. www.happyentrepreneurmagazine.com. And now I'm back with Jason Kanigan, and really excited because he's helping us figure out how to make more sales. And I know that's what all of you are here for. That's what you want. So, Jason, some of our folks are more established businesses, but I do know that a lot of our listeners are startups. So, in what's going on in the world today, do you think startups do have a real chance of surviving in their infancy?
Yes, Terry, I think they do. I get asked questions on Quora.com about this kind of thing all the time. And the serious problem that I see startup people have is that they have this brilliant brainchild idea, and then they go and invest money in making the thing. And then they go and try and find somebody to sell it to. And that process is completely backwards from what is actually effective. What you ought to do as a startup is find a market for something, find people who will pay you for it, and then go and create the thing.
Now that makes so much sense, but what do you see people doing? They do the opposite, right?
They do the opposite 99% of the time. They go and create the new mousetrap, and then they go and try and figure out, well, who's going to buy this thing?
Yeah, I see the exact same thing all the time. It's ridiculous. And I tell them all the time, it's like, you shouldn't be doing this. You really should make sure that people want this before you go out and just assume that this is what people want.
Sure, Terry, and people will maybe rebuttal sometimes and say, well, how do these potential customers know what I've got unless I can show it to them? And you can look at things like crowd starting or kickstart funding. There's no product or service available there yet. It's all air. It's all an idea, right? And just some sales copy for donations to fund the thing. So you can run a startup just like that. You can sell perhaps discounted software as a service, licenses or something like that in anticipation of building this thing. So you give the potential customers, your target market, a reason to come on board.
Okay, that makes good sense. I mean, this is all making clear sense to me. So if you were sitting in front of a room of, 10 or 20 business owners, and they're saying, okay, I fear sales, I don't like doing sales, I know I need to do sales, I think I have a really good product or a really good service. Give us some of the actions that you would give to them. I'm asking for your best stuff here for free.
Sure. Oh, why not? Why not? We've only got a short time. We can't possibly cover everything. But if I were in a consulting session with a group of business owners like that, the first thing I would get them to do is work on their self-concept or their self-identity. They already have a belief in their product or service, and that's great. You need that. If you don't believe in what you're selling, you shouldn't be selling it. So the next thing to do is to get past that slimy trickster mentality about selling and say, well, look, actually what I am is an expert in what I do. And I'm going to go out there as an expert and be a matchmaker, finding those people who need or want what I have to offer and matching it up as a solution to their problem. The next thing I would have them do, real foot on the ground stuff here, is start calling and having conversations with their target market and asking them, what kind of problems are you experiencing? Do you have this kind of problem that I can fix with this product or service? And getting the language from that niche, because people will tell you. One in, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 people you talk to will just, out of niceness or out of wanting to show off how much they know, they will just tell you what's going on in their industry. I had a client call from Florida to Colorado. He was calling roofers. And within a dozen dials, we got the marketing manager of a medium-sized roofing company on the line. She spent 20 minutes telling him all about the specifics of the roofing industry in Colorado. And I pulled out of that conversation 8 pain points, 8 reasons why people would need his help in that industry. It's out there, just go get it. And if you don't want to call your local market because you're afraid of screwing up, find the same market but in a distant geographic location and call there. It'll be close enough.
Okay. Very interesting. And what if somebody's, I guess my big question is, what if somebody is truly blocked by fear?
Well, fear comes from 2 things. And I train people on this. I have specific collateral, a training about this that only I have. It's not available anywhere else because I developed it. There's a rational side to the fear of reaching out and having these kind of conversations, and then there's an irrational side. And the rational side comes from not knowing what to expect. People decide, okay, I'm going to do a cold calling session. They have no idea what numbers to expect. They go in guns blazing, and guess what? Nobody wants to talk to them. And they had fears going in that nobody would answer the phone and nobody would want to talk to them, and it would be a waste of time, and their fears get realized. Well, when I tell you that on average, even for me, for anybody, these numbers are true for everybody. On average, half the people you call won't be available to take your call. It has nothing to do with you. They just won't be available. And on average, half the people who pick up the phone and answer it can't actually talk to you right now. And it has nothing to do with you again. Now what? Now you know, okay, 3/4 of the time on average, I'm not going to get to talk to a decision maker today. It has nothing to do with what I'm doing. Then, if you don't know this, people get frustrated, they go onto forums, they start asking for feedback, and they try changing every single variable they can. Well, is it my tone of voice? Is it the time of day I'm calling? Is it the niche I'm calling into? Yada, 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 right? And they're spinning their wheels trying to change that 3/4 of the dials you make won't reach a decision maker who can talk to you today number. But they can't change it. Nobody can change it. The key is in that 25% that you can reach. That's where we need to learn how to have effective conversations. So that usually deals with the rational side of the fear of cold calling. The irrational side comes from what you could call your lizard brain, your amygdala, which totally screws up everything. It acts like a calculator with a key held down, messing up the equations, but you don't know it. So there you are going 7 + 7 = 24. And you don't understand that key that's being held down is screwing up the number, so you take it at face value. And that's what that feedback gives you, the fear, because things don't add up. And so in my training, I unravel what's going on there and show you how that irrational fear is created and how to get rid of it. Once you understand what's going on and bring it into the realm of like conscious understanding, then it dissipates. It goes away very quickly.
I love that. I mean, that is actually one of the best, out of all the people I've talked to over the years, that is actually one of the best strategies around fear I've ever heard. That's awesome. Absolutely love that strategy. I really do. I think that's like 90% of the game is people just don't make the calls. They just don't do anything because they're so scared to do anything.
Right.
I'm curious, so if you're making calls and you get a voicemail or you can't get through to the gatekeeper, what do you do?
Okay, if I get to a voicemail for a decision maker, I can't reach a decision maker? Mm-hmm. Okay. So what's going on there? Remember, most people don't know those numbers, so they get frustrated and start taking it personally, right? Oh, the gatekeepers are out to get me, or everybody's avoiding me. It's not true. It's if there's one thing I can get across to the listeners today, it is not your fault. It's nothing you're doing. It's just a fact of life. When I call, I have the exact same numbers. So we need to be persistent. And here's a tip on how to be intelligently persistent. This is simple, but nobody teaches people how to do it. You call up, and most of the time on my first dial, I'm not going to reach a decision maker, right? 3/4 of my dials won't get there. But I'm going to talk to a decision maker probably, and I can ask them, Terry, appreciate you answering the phone. I've got a quick question for George, but He's not in right now, is he? No, he's busy. Okay, it's not surprising. Is there a time that you would recommend that I call back that would work better, where I'd have a good chance of connecting up with George?
Brilliant
And
question.
get that high probability time to encounter the decision maker, and then calendar it, and then do it. And you will find your numbers will start to improve because you're getting that high probability time. And so you might have to call back 2 or 3 times in order to make that connection, but your chances of getting that connection have much improved. And look what happens to your calendar over a week, let's say. We make a bunch of dials at the start. We don't expect to talk to anybody, but our calendar fills up over the week, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now, by Friday, we've got a ton of high probability times to call decision makers back. Now I know what I'm doing. I feel confident. I know I'm calling George at 2 in the afternoon tomorrow. There's no, gee, I wonder what I'm going to do next. And I feel good about it. And I've got a good chance of connecting with that person. And that's the beginning of having those sales conversations.
That was brilliant. I wish I wrote those words down. I'm going to have to re-listen to this podcast. That was brilliant. I'll re-listen to the show. That was absolutely brilliant. I love it. Wow, Jason, you are just full of knowledge, and one of the things I really appreciate in this show is you're just giving it away. You're just sharing and really a giver. How can people connect with you?
Okay, there's 2 main things you can do. I guess, actually, you could go to Amazon Kindle. I've got some reports there that are 99 cents or $2.99, that kind of thing. You can pick them up. That's a great introduction to what I'm doing here without taking any real risk, right? I mean, what's 99 cents? It's not going to make me rich. It's to get the information out there. But for websites, you can go to salestactics.org. Salestactics.org. That is my free sales tips blog. I put up content 2 or 3 times a week, 3 or 4 times a week sometimes. I've been doing a smattering of interviews like the one we're doing today with other Salesforce developers recently, so you can get other points of view. And I'm not worried about them taking business away from me either. We're all on the same page, and we're all sharing the same message of elevating sales. They can also go to jasonkanigan.com, which is my corporate site, talks about the services that I provide, and from there you would want to email or call me to discuss your specific situation and find out whether we're a fit or not.
That is great. And salestactics.org I've taken a look at. There's great content, salestactics.org. I have to say you are just a real giver, a real sharer, a wealth of knowledge, and I have appreciated having you on the show, Jason. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thanks, Terry. I appreciate being here.
All right, and for the listeners, I invite you to go back to the website at the end of the show. It's theterrylevineshow.com. If you haven't yet subscribed to the show, do it. You can just click on the home page and you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher. And please, if you liked today's show, I'm sure you did, Jason's content was awesome, please tell your friends and be sure to rate us on iTunes also. We're looking for some 5-star rating. We'd love to have your positive comments. And our show now is broadcasting on iHeartRadio. We are appearing 7 times a week, so please tune in there. And we also broadcast live on Thursdays at 3 p.m. on W4CY Radio, so you can tune in there as well. Thank you for joining today, and we really want you with us tomorrow for another extraordinary broadcast. We'll see you then.